welcome to CX Today. My name is Shelly, and today I'm delighted to be joined by 5 excellent customer experience analysts to run through all the latest news from the space. Yesterday, I'm delighted to be joined by Liz Miller, VP and Principal Analyst at Constellation Research, Rebecca Wetteman, CEO and Principal Analyst at Valoir, Shelly Kramer, President and CEO at Kramer & Company, Michael Fauscette, Founder, CEO and Chief Analyst at Arion Research, and lastly, Finbarr, Begley, Senior Research Analyst at Cavell, but not least. It's great to have you all join me, and let's get right on into the news. And there's been a lot of big headlines in the contact center market, especially. And let's start with the news that Genesys has received 1.5 billion in investment from Salesforce and ServiceNow. And it'd be great to get all of your reactions to this news. I don't know, Rebecca, maybe if you want to start on this one.
Sure. Well, Genesys had a partnership with Salesforce for some time and ServiceNow for some time as well. And I heard what happened is somebody called Mark and told him that Bill was sending Genesys flowers. And so they both just had to kind of up the ante. But seriously, I think it's a really interesting move as we see sort of CCaaS and CRM coming together. Obviously, there's a lot of competition between Salesforce and ServiceNow. They both see the Genesys voice piece and the Genesys orchestration piece as really, really important to the overall agentic story. And they both want to be in on it. So it's a great point for Genesys to be able to get some exit for some of its investors and some cash for future product development. But yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting to see where this situationship goes.
And potentially that line in the sand of neither of us is acquiring this company, right? They're kind of both saying to each other, okay, neither of us is actually going to buy this company, but we're both serious about this, right? And now that they've invested the exact same amount, they can just be like, okay, cool.
Do you remember those, like what they used to call them, like the finger prisons? Do you remember they used to call them something awful, right? Like where you stuck your finger in it and then you're like, like that kind of feels like where we're at right now. But listen, the news hit. I'm not kidding you. Like I do not say this in jest. Literally the news hit right after we rode out a tsunami with a bunch of AR folks. So I don't know if it was all related. It might be. I don't know what Mark was doing to Hawaii, but who knows? It could have been. The one thing I thought, though, after this news, though, was a couple of years ago, as all of these partnerships, to Rebecca's point, were announced, and everyone was like, why in the world is Genesys going? Like, Genesys went out and made partnerships with everyone, it felt like, in like one big swoop. But part of what I don't think a lot of us, I mean, I know you guys talked about it because you're much smarter than I am, was how much Genesys needed to invest up front to make these partnerships work. It's one thing, and I think we've all seen them across the industry, when big players in small markets make big partnerships. You don't really acknowledge just how much work goes into it to make those partnerships work for both sides. And what I couldn't shake from this level of investment was like, yes, it's an investment, but it's also an acknowledgement for Genesys that invvestment that they made upfront of talent, time, innovation, product development, they are the ones. If you talk to both ServiceNow and Salesforce, you will hear the same story, that it was Genesys that made the big investments to make these connectors work, to map all of this data, to make sure that this connection wasn't just an API call, that these are really out of the box, solid connections across both of these platforms. This really felt like more of a, okay, we get it. You guys did a really great job of this, and it's paying off for us too. Now let's see what we can do in round two.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the theme here for me is all about convergence, the convergence between contact center as a service and CRM platforms, and the reality that unified CX stacks are a thing for a reason. Integrated solutions deliver greater value. They deliver more rapidly. That's what everybody's looking for right now. So, who's not talking about AI-powered customer experiences? And so I think this deep integration, autonomous CX solutions, and there are some complexities here, some competitive and operational complexities that need to be dealt with. But I think this is a sign of not only what's ahead, but what's now.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's that whole idea that we want a unified customer experience and customers insist on it. And the only way to get that is to unify the customer experience, right? So to me, I was like, yeah, that from a Genesys perspective, awesome move. And I guess from a keep the playing field level, ServiceNow and Salesforce, same thing, right?
Keep it level. Not only keep it level, I think this allows them to stay ahead, remain a step ahead of the competition.
But they both have partnerships with all of the other major CCaaS vendors as well. They haven't put money in them, but it is worth just acknowledging that they're not just. It will be interesting through our various channels and contacts whether we hear any rumblings of people at ServiceNow and Salesforce on the sales side pushing the Genesys integration ahead of other partnerships, is what I'm trying to say. Because that'll be a real indication that they're like prioritizing Genesys, or whether, and then the other integrations are just there at enterprise request, right? Oh, you want us to go in with NiCE? Cool, we've got an integration for that. So it'll be interesting in the next few months if we start to hear rumblings that that's being pushed more. I think that'll be really exciting, I think, if that happens.
What's going to be real interesting is, could we all be a fly on the wall for all the CCaaS vendors out there when they realize, oh, damn, we're not the whole CX stack? Because we've been talking CX like we are. And now all of a sudden they're like, oh, snap. Okay, so we're not marketing automation. You guys have a thing that does that. And then now on ServiceNow, we're going to, and on Salesforce, we can't have our own siloed bit of data because we decided that we had a data platform. I just want to be there. I want to be there. Like, can we all? Because really, all five of us, we've been all saying the same thing for many years now. And I think we all have earned our front row seats. Just be like, yeah, hi guys. Hi.
How does that feel?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Describe it at length for us,
All right, awesome. And I think we've covered that news very well. So let's quickly move on to our next big piece of news, and that is that NiCE has acquired Cognigy for $995 million. And this is a huge move. It brings together, I think NiCE is a Gartner Magic Quadrant leader in CCaaS, and then Cognigy is one in conversational AI, and has since done quite a lot of things in agentic AI as well. I don't know, Finbarr, maybe if you want to start with your first thoughts on this one.
I mean, my first thought was I thought NiCE already had really good conversational AI, right? If I'm being honest, it was like, wait a second, they already have that. And then I was starting to think to myself, it's like, okay, maybe it was good, but it wasn't like top of the Gartner Magic Quadrant good. And then it sort of started to make more sense. But then, you go and you talk to NiCE about this, what's going on, and they're like, look, it is great what they've built. There's a reason that Cognigy is considered the industry leader. There's a reason that they're worth this much money. We're buying in people, we're buying expertise and innovation. And I think very much the idea that we're going to let them keep innovating as well, right? We're going to work with them and we're going to let them keep doing whatever they're doing and reap the benefits.
Yeah, well, they need them to do that because they have a deep talent bench,
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is as the battle for agents starts to accelerate, I predict we're going to see, as an analyst, we're going to see a forecast of who has the most agents deployed moving forward as a real measure of success. NiCE just bought a really nice customer base of agents that are out there and deployed.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, agentic AI right now is seen as the future of customer experience. Everybody is moving in that direction. I mean, I just got some survey data back a couple of weeks ago that showed that globally, customer service is the number one use case for agentic AI, and even in the U.S., it's number two behind coding. So it's definitely where you want to put your money right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. No, I think I was going to also note that one other part of this that's not, a huge part, but I think it bears mention is Cognigy's partnerships with Avaya and Genesys and their work in helping on-prem contact center customers overlay cloud-based AI innovation. And, so there's so much more to what's happening in this space and not ignoring that not insignificant part of a customer base, right? I think that's also really attractive.
I think the most interesting part of the acquisition for me was, yes, they've got one heck of a dev team. Like, let's just be honest. Cognigy has talent in all capital letters. They have German-based talent. And what I have to say about that is what made this interesting was not the conversational AI, not the agents. Everybody, like, let's be real. My 8-year-old's going to be able to build agents any second now. It's like, it's okay, great. She's going to have an agent to figure out what happens in Minecraft. Thumbs up. It's the data. And who do I want architecting my single schema and fabric of data? Who do I want innovating on data? Who do I want understanding how to take that next step into data across the enterprise, and not just, I've got voice and it's data, not that, right? Because everyone in CCaaS is doing that, and they're doing, and congratulations to them. It's awesome. Cognigy did something different. They took the next step in data. And I think that's what NiCE bought. Because as much as NiCE has been doing a very good job of understanding that there is a ton of data across CCaaS, I think what the team very rightfully pinpointed is the winner in the next round of agentic, which is not, can I build the agents? It's not even, can I connect the agents? It's not even, can I connect the agents outside of the platform in which I built them? It's, can I get them to work repeatedly? And that is going to take data. And what Cognigy brings to the table is talent in data, and talent in data from Europe, who's got some of the biggest, baddest regulations in town, right? So I think that acquisition and that pickup across the data lens was huge. It was to the point where I was kind of surprised that they didn't try to push it over that billion mark just to make it sassy, because I'm like, that's how important data is going to be. And I think NiCE has seen that coming for quite some time, because I think that's where I keep hearing from NiCE customers. That is the wall. It's not because of NiCE. It's because of all of the other systems, as we were just talking about in that whole integrated CX stack. It's that they're trying to conquer. They're running out of data, and they're running out of data fast. And I think NiCE has identified that. And I think the Cognigy pickup actually speaks to that more than it actually even speaks to the agents.
I mean, I think it's probably also the sign of all the, aggregation that's going to happen, convergence going to happen through acquisition over the next year. This is going to speed up dramatically after this. So,
yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of people scrambling here.
If the PE firms, who are probably calling all 5 of us, are any indication over what's about to happen, of like, oh, do you have anyone on your team that can talk about the financial viability of a CCaaS? I'm like, okay, let's start by saying it correctly.
Excellent. And let's maybe move on to a company that might just be scrambling in terms of Five9 having announced with the CEO announcing his departure last week, alongside 3 other execs, including the chief marketing officer as well, which was quite interesting. So yeah, a lot to digest with this one. I don't know, Shelly, maybe if you want to react first.
Sure. I think that if I'm being candid, which when aren't we candid? I think analysts, we've been talking about what's going on with Five9 for a while now. Okay. And I think that, for a company that once was viewed as amazing and, watch out and everything else, I think the sentiment in the last year or so has been, what's really happening here? And the, Mike Berkland's departure, those executive layoffs kind of signal there's some challenges. And, then of course the spin on this is that, we're seeking an AI innovator to take the helm. Well, of course you are. Right. So, well, and I think that, there's some things at play here. You've got activist investors who are, maybe gunning for a sale, and certainly they're pushing for greater profitability. And, so there are some challenges, although, earnings reports, Five9's enterprise AI revenue grew 42% year over year. AI bookings have tripled. That now comprises more than 20% of new enterprise deals. Okay. Well, of course, we're looking for an AI innovator to step in as the CEO role, because we need to continue on that vein. And so I think there have been some good things, and there's some good partnerships with Salesforce, Google Cloud, ServiceNow, all of that. Those are smart moves. But it'll really be interesting to see, I think culture may be a challenge there right now. And I think that, one of the things that we were just talking about with the Cognigy acquisition and the NiCE-Cognigy acquisition, and I think maybe Liz, I read something that you wrote where you spoke to the culture, and, there's just such a match with those two companies. And I'm not sure what culturally what's happening at Five9 right now. I think there's been a lot of turmoil, a lot of change, a lot of stress. And strong cultures are part of the success equation. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. The whole idea of not just these senior execs leaving, which is bad enough, but you've also 2 rounds of layoffs so far this year, and the rumors that another one's on the way. So I suspect morale is bad, and I'm probably being kind to say that. So, it is turbulent, and then you've got activist investors in the background pushing. It's a tough environment.
Well, I think it's interesting too that we've seen you need a different kind of management team to address different levels of growth, right? And Five9 is at that interesting kind of almost 2 billion point, like where does it go next? You have to clean the house before you sell it. You also have to clean it before you remodel, right? So we could be looking at some very different things depending on what, like Mike said, those activist investors decide to push.
Yeah, that's a great point, Rebecca.
Yeah, and I mean the run from 2 billion to 20 or 10 is much tougher than and you need a totally different kind of mindset to scale at that level. So,
and I think you started to see some of that come in with a different product mindset. I think that where Five9 is intending to innovate and where they are looking for what's next in the market. Listen, everybody's looking at AI, of course we are, but that's like kind of saying that everyone is looking at like metal to build airplanes. Like, oh yeah, yes, like that. Yes, that's what you build airplanes out of, right? Like it's where everyone is headed. I think the question we all have had is what's behind AI? Like what's waiting in the wings after AI? Once everyone shifts into, well, of course I have AI operations. Of course AI is imbued across every piece of my operations, across all of my customer experiences. What comes next? And I think that the product team at Five9 is trying to push that agenda. Like, what does Five9 mean for that next generation? I don't necessarily, so I think that they've got some solid footing there moving forward. And I totally agree with Rebecca. Like, listen, we can say all day long that executives left, but that's kind of like telling me that people who parachute out of an airplane always leave the airplane. Like there are different ways you leave a company, and I'm just saying, but you have 3 very senior, very high level executives who arguably were core to that post Rowan Tonkin success for Five9, right? You have a CEO who's staying on the board, right? Notice Mike isn't like, I'm retiring and I'm sailing off into the sunset. Mike's going back to the same role that he had, the last time. Wow, that term sheet looks a heck of a lot cleaner now, all of a sudden, for someone who might be looking to make an acquisition or to make a major investment or with an offer in the wings. 4 very large packages now. That's not a bad spring cleaning, right? Like that's end of summer, get the sand out of the lobby. But what concerns me is the rapid fire haphazard succession in which it all happened. It felt a little like this is all happening and we're racing towards something, but we're not quite sure what. And I think that type of chaos does not bode well for customers, right? It brings up a lot of questions. And I think for Five9, I think we've all been hearing from our clients some big questions around, do I scale them? Do I move them past an experiment? What do I do? Do I roll this out to everyone? what do you say to people in the face of that when they're now calling you back being like, listen, I'm making this decision in the next 6 weeks?
Yeah. Well, uncertainty breeds uncertainty, right? And so, uh, Michael, you mentioned there had been 2 rounds of layoffs. There's actually been 3 in the last 12 months because the first round was August of 2024, right? Just a year ago. Combined, these layoffs are expected to save 20 to 25 million annually. That looks attractive, right? To your point, Liz, cleaning the house, your point, Rebecca, repainting the rooms, all of that sort of thing. So it will be interesting, but I do think that uncertainty breeds uncertainty, because right now, this is a hard company to say, I'm going to go all in on that.
The other thing you don't really know, I was going to say that the activist investors are an interesting problem, and we've seen this across a bunch of different companies. I mean, Salesforce and others, right? They're activists and they got money, they're investors, but do they actually understand the business? Not usually. And so a lot of times the pressure they put is not necessarily pressure that leads in the direction that's going to be successful long term. So it's often a big battle internally.
Well, I'll just say I want to be a bit more positive. Strong CCaaS bones in Five9. Potential for great innovation. Potential for if they do get acquired, or if someone invests heavily in them and brings some more AI company in or something like that, their share price is probably quite competitive. Quite low. I was just checking it off screen, but I think they would say that it's below where they want it to be. But of course, for an investment, that's quite promising. So I think there's probably a lot of.
Well, and Finbarr also, I wasn't being negative. I mean, I talked about the revenue growth and the AI bookings and all of that stuff, and those product launches, the agentic AI agents and the AI trust and governance, those have been incredibly well received, right? So all of that is good, but
there's that turmoil and uncertainty. I see it as, as you say, Liz, give it 6 weeks, something is going to happen. There's going to be an announcement, whether it's more money or it's a CEO coming from a bigger company who's going to make that next growth trajectory, right? Bringing in his own team at the top end, who he trusts, new CMO that he trusts, like that, or she trusts, sorry, I should say, they trust.
Yeah. It's going to have to be can we just say that for a second? As much as there is turmoil, and there may be, I don't in all honesty, when Rowan said he was leaving, everyone thought there was going to be a ton of turmoil, and there was for a hot second, but Mike and the Berklands and they smoothed that out, and they got back to business exceedingly quickly. That was there was no fumble there. It was a non-issue. And I think where that has paid off is in their enterprise bookings, right? They really have taken off with those enterprise bookings. They are not the SMB player, right? They really have moved into that. They are solid in enterprise. They have a great mid-market business. And let's not scoff mid-market, right? When you're at $2 trillion now just in the US, that's not a bad market to be in, if that's where you're going to play. I think the challenge here is going to be, what does the Five9 culture look like next? And what is that heading? Because if I'm being super honest, there was a lot of kind of the winding, meandering road. I think that I give a ton of credit to Mike Berkland for really being one of those first people out there very early in kind of the AI age and era, to basically say, listen, you still have to make people pretty dang happy. And remember, everyone was remember they came out with the whole line of it was about Five9 joy. And it was about bringing that to their customers and having their customers be happy. Let's admit why that had to happen. Because a lot of customers in CCaaS, I'm not saying Five9 customers, I'm saying a lot of customers in CCaaS were actively unhappy, right? Because they had a lot of technical debt in their on-prem solutions. They had these bills that they were uncertain about, and a ton of options in CCaaS all of a sudden. There was not a lot of joy in this market. And I give a lot of credit to Mike for being one of those people that was what are we doing? Why are we so miserable about this? And he really brought that. And kudos to him. And he deserves one hell of a retirement, right? That's one heck of a track record. The question is, when the board is looking for the next CEO, the board is going to have to be very clear. Are we looking at people from within Five9 where we continue more of the same? Or are we looking for that big name from the big name that comes in and marks a new flag in Five9 that really ends that Birkeland era, which was amazing. He is that company. So the question really becomes, and I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on this board to really vet and find someone who is really going to plant that very new flag and say, this is the direction, and then rally the troops and get everyone to move in that new direction, and not move in a also ran, we're going to do what NiCE does. We're going to do what Genesys does. We're going to follow AWS. We're going to follow Amazon. Who are they going to bring in? Who is like, this is the new course for Five9, tally ho.
Excellent. Yeah, and again, lots of good stuff there. And there's an interesting question, maybe who could possibly be the company that could acquire Five9, but I guess that's maybe one for another day. As we do, I do want to quickly close up on one final acquisition. And this is switching gears a little bit, moving into sales, because Salesforce has bought Blubirds, and that is an AI prospecting platform. Yeah, Liz, I don't know if you want to maybe start this one, giving your take.
I thought this was one heck of an acquisition. I think that we look a lot at that tail end of like how you get stuff into the funnel. Here we go. We're going to look at this and we're going to figure out how fast we can close, right? That whole idea of, can we compress time in the middle and towards the end of the sales cycle? But AI opens up so much opportunity at the start of the sales cycle that I really think that this becomes a very, very interesting acquisition. I think this becomes an accelerator. I think it is the difference of, yes, we have agents, and we have agents who are fast and efficient and moving very quickly. I think that I think the question becomes, where else can this be applied across the stack, and how well does it connect to other parts of this cloud? Because I think that if we continue to just focus on functional tools for functional things, if we're truly looking at building an estate that is purpose-built for growth, we've got to start asking, yes, this is great for acquisition, but does it connect to everything else? Or is it battling all of the function that's happening, maybe of things that happen in the contact center, maybe things that happen in marketing? So I thought it was a great pickup. I think it's a smart acquisition. I think it rounds out where we want kind of this AI vision to fit when you look at the funnel and how we're able to do that. The question becomes, how do we lift it up as just, it can't be a sales toy for sales things. We really have to look at this as a business growth, end-to-end holistic vision. My colleague Martin Schneider talks about it all the time, right? How do you have that platform that goes end-to-end? And I think that, he's right? How do we do that? And I think this acquisition starts to speak to that.
Well, and the other thing, if you step back a little bit and you look at it in a bigger picture, this is a great example of how tech and large tech companies innovate and grow, right? You can't do, in a disruptive environment like we're in, for a large company, it's really difficult to do all of these little innovations that you need to really get ahead. All the startups, they build out things. Are they products? Are they features? Maybe they're more features. They get rolled up. And I think that's where we are right now. You're going to start to see a lot of these smaller AI startups being rolled up to build out that full portfolio from a process perspective, end to end. It needs to be done. And that's the quickest way to innovate in this kind of environment.
Well, I think the other thing too, Mike, to your point earlier about adoption of AI, let's face it, it's happening in customer service right now. It has not happened at scale in a meaningful way in sales, right? Just the same people that didn't want to put data in applications don't want AI watching what they're doing, right? So there's got to be a real there's got to be a real what's in it for me, for the salespeople, but to Liz's point, what's in it for the organization when we start to think about how do we do BDRs in a completely different way, right? And this gives Salesforce a way into that market with some more features and capabilities, but also with some customers they can point to say, we talk about how many agents are out there running. There aren't a hell of a lot running out there in Sales Cloud right now, right? There are some, but not necessarily at scale. The customer service case is an easier one and a more accessible one for a lot of customers. So this gives Salesforce some accelerant there.
Yeah, and I mean the SDR BDR function is one of those that if you look through what's going to go away because of this kind of agentic, automation, that's a logical place to do it, right? I mean, I want humans involved in the complex sale when it gets close, but why would I not just go ahead and offload a lot of the early stuff, early funnel to an agent? It just makes sense to me.
Well, and I think as customers, we like, some research that we did a couple of years ago in the B2B buyer arena, and I'm sure you're all the same way. Please don't make me sit through a demo. Please don't make me speak to a human being. Please get out of my way. I know what I'm looking for. I know the questions that I have, so agents can drive that, and certainly help drive that. I think to me, what I think about is, as in any of these instances, it's really all about, do they actually deliver? Do they actually do what it is that buyers are looking for? And I think about, I know that you are like me, all on LinkedIn, on and off throughout the day. How many GD AI powered messages selling you something that you already sell or that you don't need or whatever? And it's just like, you just want to punch people, right? I mean, because people are leaning into some of these AI powered tools as a business development exercise and assist, and they suck. So
Whoa. Are you trying to tell me that I don't want to open up my own telco franchise? I don't know what you're thinking, Shelly, but I think about it all the time.
It's okay. I'm going heavily into offshore development. That's my new thing.
no, but I think there's 1,000 ways to get this wrong. And so what I'm looking for is, please get it right. And, if anybody's going to get it right and, be able to charge even more, it's Salesforce.
That's a whole other show.
That's maybe a great point to end on as well.
Price tags are always a great place to end, Charlie.
Absolutely, but it was another really great conversation, covered so much ground. So thanks, massive thanks to all our wonderful analysts, and also a big thank you for everybody for watching. Bye for now.